So Saturday was April 1st. Here in the US, that also means that it's the worst holiday ever, April Fool's Day. Now don't get me wrong, sometimes it is fun to participate in the National Day of Pranking, and I've done it before here on the channel, but I won't go out of my way to pull one over on you guys, and even when I do a prank video here on the channel, I try to ensure that it's clear that I'm joking. But then you have ASUS, who announced the ROG Ally on April Fool's Day. There's no clear indication that this was a prank. In fact, the design of the Ally is too good for a mere prank in my opinion. But then the tone of the video feels tongue-in-cheek enough to fit in with the 1st of April vibe. However, the fact is that there's an actual BestBuy.com page for this device, which leads me to believe that this is a real product that will eventually be released at some point. So either this is some real high-end posting, or ROG is actually releasing the Ally. Meanwhile, the tech media, in its infinite wisdom, is jockeying the Ally as some kind of Steam Deck competitor. But is that the actual reality of the situation? Let's talk about this device, go through the video, and figure out how it will compare to the Steam Deck and the handheld PCs that it will actually compete against. So the video starts off by talking about how ROG has pushed the boundaries of gaming with laptops, tablets, and even contact lenses. Then it says, quote,
"Introducing ROG Ally, ROG's first handheld console. The ROG Ally is a Windows gaming handheld."
Wait a minute, which one is it? Is it a handheld console or is it a Windows gaming handheld? It categorically cannot be both. The two terms are mutually exclusive to one another. Windows is a general purpose operating system. Therefore, any device running Windows is not a console. In fact, any device running Windows cannot be called a console at all. At a minimum, consoles must run a gaming-focused operating system, and that's not what Windows is. Consoles must also have a custom controller-driven user interface that can launch games and manage the system. And finally, and this is critical, modern consoles must have a first-party storefront that subsidizes the cost of the hardware substantially. I will die on this hill. I'm not kidding. And I'd also argue in this form factor, we should universally expect a console experience for a gaming handheld, which Windows is simply incapable of providing, by the way, due to its encumbrances as a general purpose OS. Now, apparently, ROG Ally has a custom AMD APU that supports eGPUs. Now, this is a pretty neat trick, and it's one thing that I'd like to see the Steam Deck actually be able to do. But it also apparently supports 1080p gaming with the mention of gorgeous and smooth full HD, which, hey, if all you care about is having a bigger number on your spec sheet, congratulations. But I'll stick to 800p and get better performance and battery life on my Steam Deck. That's just me, though. So look, ROG and the tech media are trying to position this thing as a Steam Deck competitor, but I've got news for them. Unless this thing ships with better specs, gaming OS, and a sub $600 price point, it's not a competitor. And the reason is simple. You can't trust Windows-powered handheld devices. You just can't. But before we get into that, I've got to ask, why haven't you liked that smash button yet? When you do, you'll be well on your way to seeing more videos just like this one. You can also subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest Steam Deck news that we're covering here on the channel. And I want to give a special shout out to Systrom, one of my top tier super user members here on YouTube. It's because of Systrom and 77 other folks just like him who make what I do here a reality. So thank you. And now let's get back to my rant. Windows is categorically worse for gaming. The numbers back this up. Even if developers don't do anything to support Steam Deck, AAA games generally perform a lot better on SteamOS than they do on Windows. Elden Ring is a prime example. Running the game on Windows results in worse performance than on Linux. Valve brought Steam Deck support to Elden Ring within a day of its release, and it was working better than it did on Windows, even on significantly more powerful hardware. But if a game targets Vulkan instead of DirectX, things get even better. Doom Eternal on the Steam Deck has shockingly high frame rates, especially for the hardware, and with all other things being equal, playing the game on Windows is a much worse experience. This has held true with many other titles as well. SteamOS and Valve have delivered something special, a PC OS that is actually optimized for games. Furthermore, Windows has exorbitant background processes which eat up your system resources. Windows is less optimized for battery life, and it arbitrarily consumes the limited write cycles of your NVMe, killing its lifespan in the process. Finally, despite what the stereotypical PC gamer's maximalist intuition might dictate, having 100% library compatibility is far less important than other considerations on a device of this caliber. Having a better user experience that ditches the mouse and keyboard, having a UI that integrates with the hardware, and frankly, having the Steam Deck's indispensable performance menu a button press away, those are way more important than having 100% library compatibility, at least in my opinion. Windows can never offer any of these things either, unless it comes directly from Microsoft, and that's unlikely. Next, let's talk about the lifespan of your Windows-powered hardware. It'll be quote-unquote obsolete within a year of your purchase. This is because the manufacturer only makes money off of sales of the hardware itself, and if they want to continue making money, they need to introduce a new hardware revision every 12 to 18 months. And honestly, a year from now, they can't get away with a modest upgrade that just increases the RAM and storage either. No, they need to roll out a whole new SKU with appealing spec bumps in all categories in order to satisfy the idiotic and unsustainable expectations of the bigger number better crowd. So let's say you pay $1,400 today, or whatever the price ends up being, and you can play the latest AAA games for about a year. But 3 years down the line, your investment into an ROG Ally or whatever else could be 2 generations out of date at that point. Due to this, the Ally won't have the install base for developers to justify supporting it specifically. So what will it be useful for in 3 years? 2D indies and older PC games? That's about it. Meanwhile, the Steam Deck is a stable target today and into the future that game developers can target to support for years to come. This allows software support for the Steam Deck to mature and gives developers time to optimize later releases for the hardware. It will have a much wider install base too, giving devs incentive to actually support the hardware, and it'll be safe for you to purchase a deck 3 years from now and know that it will continue getting new game releases for years to come. Plus, Valve doesn't feel the financial pressure of releasing new hardware every year because they make money from game sales. In fact, 3 years from now, I expect the price of the hardware to actually drop. Look, it doesn't matter if it's the ROG Ally, the Neo devices, or the GPD Win devices. Whatever. These handhelds are not competitors with the deck, and they never could be. These PC handhelds are replaced every year by new models. They're sold at a markup, often 2.5 times to 3 times the price of the deck's entry-level SKU. And they only offer modest spec boosts over the deck anyway. Like it or not, and despite what Valve themselves say, the Steam Deck is more of a console than it is a PC. Its cost is subsidized by game sales. Its hardware lifespan will be 4 to 5 times longer than what the would-be competitors are offering, and the deck runs a custom gaming-focused operating system complete with a beautiful controller-oriented UI. The fact is, because of economic and production factors, and given the nature of the tech industry, you simply can't trust a handheld device that ships with Windows. Not just because Windows spies on you, which it does, but because the manufacturer doesn't control the software stack and is financially obligated to move on to the next generation as quickly as possible, which will make the system you just bought obsolete in a handful of months. But that's just my take. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. I want to give a special shout out to my friends over on Patreon and my YouTube and ViewSync members. These folks make what I do here a reality, so thank you. If you believe in the work that I'm doing here, you can use the links below to show your support and get your name listed over here. And thank you. I think that's going to do it for now though. Thanks so much for spending your time with me here today, and I'll see you guys in the next one.